Today's show is sponsored by Round Table Woodworks and BarrelChips.com. They are bringing whiskey smoke to your favorite foods with their authentic whiskey barrel smoking chips.
You're listening to the Firewater Review. This is a podcast dedicated to whiskey reviews. On today's show, we will be reviewing Four Roses Elliot Select Single Barrel Limited Edition. I am your host, Seth Brown. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Aaron Cave. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fabulous tonight, Seth. How are you?
Spectacular. Spectacular. The weather's warming up again. It was a beautiful day. And I have a very beautiful bourbon sitting right in front of me.
I know. I'm really looking forward to this one.
Yeah.
I know you are too.
Yeah. It was early on in the bourbon show. This was an ongoing joke that I picked up a new bottle of this every week. When in reality, I have 2 bottles plus a sample sent to you or sent from you to me. But I'd opened up it was a lower proof of the Elliot Select for my birthday, and we put a pretty good dent on that day. And I've had a few drinks of it since then, and I am probably below 1/3 left in this one.
Mine is just about empty, and I popped this one right when I got it because I actually got lucky enough to get a second one. But the bad thing is they're the exact same barrel. They're both 114 proof from the same barrel. I didn't get 2 different barrels like you did.
Yeah, I lucked out on that one, and their barrel strength release, of course, and the first one that I picked up was, for a barrel strength, I thought was pretty low. Most of the Four Roses aren't super high, like Stag and Stag Junior high.
Yeah.
Just because of the way they're aged at Four Roses. But this one came in at 52.4%. So what is that?
That's a low one.
What is that? 104.8.
Yep.
So we opened this one, and it was hands down the best that we had over my birthday. And that was comprised of some pretty good bourbons. I had a 1976 Old Granddad. I had some Old Forester Birthday, among a lot more. But the Elliot Select was the favorite of the day by pretty much everybody that enjoys bourbon that was at my house that day.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think everyone knows Four Roses is kind of your favorite distillery out there.
Yeah. Yep.
So, yeah, I would imagine it would be your favorite pour of the night.
Yeah, a little biased.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. We all have our favorites.
So, yeah, I lucked out. I got 2 different ones. Like I said, this one was 52.4, and the other one is 56.4.
Nice.
And they're all from the same warehouse, aren't they? Or are they?
Which warehouse is the 52 from?
It is from QN.
And mine is also from QN, so I'd imagine mine was 114 proof. Yeah. So you could check your other bottle, but I imagine they're probably all from QN.
Yeah, this one's QN too. The barrel numbers are different, of course. I mean, the proofs are different. So mine, my 2 bottles, the one that I've been drinking out of is bottle number 4,699 out of 10,224. And the 56.4 was bottle number 6,666. So a bunch of 6s.
My bottle is 7,074.
Well, what can you tell us about this one?
Well, so Four Roses started up their single barrel limited release program in 2008. it's been kind of an ongoing limited edition release yearly since then, besides 2015, where they cut it due to what was said as barrel shortage. I don't know if it had something to do with it being Jim Rutledge's last year. It's kind of hard to say, but they say it's due to barrel shortage. So, but the 2016 is marks the first limited edition for Brent Elliot, the new master distiller. So I think they just kind of took a year off so Jim could hand the reins over to Elliot and then move on. And I tell you what, he did a fantastic job with this limited release. And I think everyone knows that he had to go big with this first release just because he had some giant shoes to fill. And because Rutledge is, I mean, hands down, just one of the best master distillers out there.
Yeah.
And so, but as you mentioned, all these single barrel selections are barrel strength, and they all usually are different recipes. And I'll go into a little bit and talk about Four Roses and their recipes. They do have 10 different recipes. They use 5 different five different yeast strains for their 2 different mash bills. So they have a mash bill that is 75% corn, 20% rye, and 5% barley, and that is their low rye, believe it or not. And then their second mash bill is 60% corn, 35% rye, and 5% barley. So, and that's their high rye mash bill. And so the standard single barrel that you can just buy off the shelf is their OBSV recipe. So it's a higher rye, and the V is the yeast strain. The V is known for kind of like a delicate fruit, a little bit spicy, and a creamy consistency. And then their small batch is a blend of OBSO, OBSK, then the OESO, and the OESK. And then the yellow label is just all 10 recipes blended together. So, but the yeast strains are KQ, O, F, and V. K is kind of known for like a rich spiciness and full body. The Q is kind of floral with a little bit of spice with a medium body. The O is fruity, a little bit of spice and a medium body. F is kind of like the herbal type of the yeast strains. And then, as I said, V is fruity, spicy, and creamy. So, but what we're tasting is this year's, which is the OESK, so the lower rye, and then the K recipe, which is kind of a richer, spicy, full body bourbon, or yeast strain for the bourbon. So, Four Roses is cool. It's really cool to try all 10 recipes, to find those single barrel picks out in the wild and just try to get one of each. And then sit down and try all 10. Well, trying all 10 would be hard at once, but it's always fun to try all the different recipes. That's the neat thing about Four Roses, and and their rickhouses are all one floor, which is kind of neat. They're not story after story; they're just one story rickhouses.
And that is one of the reasons why they don't tend to be as high proof too. Because they're just all one story. And I mean, the one that you have is what, 117?
114.
114. You usually don't see anything from them over 120-ish, I don't think.
Yeah, I think I've seen a couple maybe close to 125, but I haven't seen anything beyond that.
Yeah.
I think that's all I got, unless you got a few other things.
No, not really. I mean, for a long time, that last single barrel release under Rutledge, the 2014 single barrel limited edition, I thought was phenomenal. I can't remember what the recipe was right off hand.
I wanna say it was an OESF, but
Right.
I can actually tell you here.
I've got it, but it's out of my reach currently. But yeah, for a long time, that was one of my favorites of all time. And I think after this year's release, I was really bummed that it was discontinued in 2015 for whatever the real reason is. So I was super stoked when they announced that this was coming back out. And, I thought the same thing that you had thought or stated earlier about, him having really big shoes to fill and, whatever it is that they release, I'm going to kind of be holding it against that 2014.
Yeah.
And after, we popped it open, it was just, oh my gosh. I was like, well, he nailed it. He's wearing those shoes now. So it, you're talking about a guy that really brought back that brand. And Jim Rutledge. I mean, for a long time, he came in, I think when Seagram's still owned them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they were really export only. They were big in the Japanese market.
Yep.
And they just really didn't have a presence pretty much at all in the U.S. for a long time. And he was the mastermind behind the whole 10 recipes. And he did a spectacular job. Yeah, it seems like Elliot's doing a pretty good job at doing it. I mean, I think the 2015 small batch, I think both Rutledge and Elliot had a hand in that one, didn't they? It seems like it was kind of a joint effort because that was about the time that he was coming on.
Yeah, I would imagine they probably kind of did a little collaboration with that one.
And then I missed the 2016 small batch. I didn't get that one. But anyway, no, I don't have much else to add. You said everything I would have said.
All right. So do you have a favorite recipe?
The K is the OESK that we have here is really good. It's funny because I came up in kind of a trade / add-on in a local deal that I had, and it was an OESV. OBSV. I'm sorry, OBSV, and it's phenomenal. It is phenomenal. That one, and I mean, granted, they're two totally different recipes, but it and this Elliot Select are running a pretty close race, and that was the only. I think that is the only barrel strength OBSV that I've ever had. And it was just, oh man, it was a good consolation prize, I guess, if you will.
Yeah, that's good. I'm kind of partial to the K's and the V's as well. I like the full body and the spiciness of the K yeast, and I like the creaminess of the V. And so they're both kind of up there for me. If I had to pick a favorite recipe, it probably would be an OBSK. Just because it's a little bit higher rye. It's got a little bit more spice to it. But, I've actually liked all 10 of them, so I've never had a pour of any of the recipes that I didn't really like. So,
yeah, and I think a lot of that has to do, I mean, both you and I are higher rye guys. Mm-hmm. And I think my love for them is just that, I mean, as you stated before, even their lower rye is still a pretty high rye.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons why I've always kind of been drawn to them. And to be quite honest, I mean, that, when I first started getting into Four Roses and learning about all the recipes and, really kind of starting to understand my palate, that's when I learned that I do skew more towards the higher rye bourbons and rye whiskey in general, just because of that. And I think that's kind of where my love for that distillery has come from. So anyway, well, let's take a quick break. We will sample this, and when we come back, we will share our notes.
Awesome.
Dirty Knees Soap Co. DirtyKneesSoap.com. Dirty Knees Soap Co.
All right, Evan, I think that Dirty Knees has changed your life in a very dramatic way, correct?
Yeah, that is correct, Steve. There was a time in the recent past,
what, like 3 weeks ago,
I did not think it was all that important to shower every day or every other day or every third day. I took my showers about once a week, and I thought that was plenty. And the people around me agreed, I guarantee it. But I got my hands on some Minnesota wood from Dirty Knees, and I decided to start showering every day. That's how much I love the smell. That's how much I enjoy this odd, clean feeling that I have in the morning heading out the door.
Is it just once a day, or is it you doing it more than that?
Well, just the once, just the once for now. But there's, when you're doing it every day, there's nowhere to go but up, I guess. So if I have to double up, I will. Welcome
to society. Welcome to society.
Yes, thank you. It's funny. I actually got a raise the other day. Do you think that had something to do with it?
Probably.
Minnesota wood. That's it, man.
Dirty Knees Soap Co. DirtyKneesSoap.com. Use promo code Bourbon20 and receive 20% off your first order.
All right, welcome back, everybody. In the break, we have been reviewing and sipping on Four Roses Elliot Select. It is barrel strength, single barrel limited edition from 2016, and it was the first release under Master Distiller Brent Elliot. So as usual, Aaron, I will let you kick off the review.
All right, so my bottle is 114 proof, Warehouse Q, which we talked about earlier. And it is barrel number 53-3V. So to start off, the nose on this is it's a phenomenal nose. With lots of vanilla, oak, and caramel right up front. Kind of give way to a little bit of cherry, clove, a little cinnamon, nice little spice to it. I even get hints of white pepper. And then it's just kind of mellows out. I get a little bit of apricot, some peach, some nice corn notes, and then there's ripe fruits. It's kind of really at the end just a lot of fruit notes to it, which I really like. And then it's got that traditional just really charred oak note, and then on the palate. It's very rich, very creamy, super oily. It coats the palate. It just stays with you. I get little hints of apples, a little bit of pepper, cloves. Definitely get that red hot candy, that nice, cinnamon spice candy. A lot of oak. Get some even nice little barrel char in there. Vanilla. Even some candied ginger, and get a little bit of honey, almonds, and right at the end, just like little hints of mints. And the mint kind of stays with you through the finish, actually. And on the finish, it's oaky, a lot of cloves, dark chocolate, and that mint just stays with you all the way through the finish. And it's long. It lingers. It's a great finish. I really like it. And this, like I said earlier, Ks are kind of, an OVSK is one of my favorite for his recipe. So this is a little bit lower on the rye side, but man, I really like it. I love this pour. I'm giving it a 92.
I love it, man.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal pour, and Elliot he knocked it out of the park this year. He did a great job. So, cheers.
Absolutely, cheers. absolutely. Yeah, for me, mine was a 52.4%, so 104.8 proof. And like yours, obviously, it's an OESK. And mine was, or is, bottle 4,699. Yeah, the nose, I agree with you. It's just, it has a fantastic nose on it. I was getting a lot of ripe, sweet fruits up front. There's some nice oak mixed in there. Not a lot. It's just enough, there to just give you some wood notes there. There was a bit of char, some black pepper, and nutmeg. I was getting some dill, oddly enough. You'd mentioned that, I think, on an episode or two ago back. And that was, after sticking it up to my nose, the sweet fruits are what stood out to me right away. But then that dill, once that fruitiness kind of subsided a little bit, I was like, I feel like I just stuck my nose in a pickle jar.
Yeah.
But it was, it didn't turn me off at all. I thought it was kind of interesting and pretty neat. But I got some light almonds. It's a very, very balanced nose. I was getting some cinnamon and a touch of clove there on the very end of the nose. But it's just overall, this is a super balanced bourbon. For the palate, it was pretty spicy up front, but that settles down relatively quickly, and that reveals some of the more sweeter flavors. Some nice caramel that balances out the black pepper and cinnamon spices. You'd mentioned the red hot candy, the cinnamon candies. Was getting that too, and that was really what kind of took me into the finish. Was that the nice? It's got just enough sugar there to kind of not make it super spicy, but it's a very, very rich, very full bodied bourbon. Like I said, it's balanced. I mean, the nose is balanced, the palate is balanced. It's just, I think the flavors really, really play well off of each other in this one. The finish is very long. It's nice. There again, I got that sugary, hot, spicy candy. And those flavors kind of give way to some salted caramel for me and dark chocolate. It at the very end of the finish, it kind of gets almost a little syrupy, and that it coated my mouth really, really well. And that, the finish just kept going. I was sitting here taking some notes, and I felt like, about 10 minutes after I'd taken the sip, I was still getting some of the flavors there hanging around. And it was almost like I'd eaten a peppermint, and you get that sugar just kind of coats your mouth a little bit, but you still have that peppermint flavor there long after you've already finished the piece of candy. I was getting that same thing here with this one. And it was just, it's just that bourbon that just keeps on giving. I love it. And I actually gave this one a 95.
Oh, nice.
95. Yeah. This, I think, as I mentioned before the break, the 2014 for a long time was one of my more favorite. And I think this passes it.
Well, I think that is the highest rating I think I've ever heard you give bourbon on any of the shows. I
think you're correct.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've even scored one this high on Son of Winston Churchill.
So, I don't think I've ever had anything. I don't think I've ever rated anything over 95, but I've had 2 or 3 sitting at 95. And, so it's a great pour. And I agree with you. Just, granted, we are drinking different barrels. So,
yep.
I'll be interested to see what you rank the barrel I was drinking tonight.
Yeah.
See what I rank the barrel you're drinking tonight. But between the two barrels, that's a 93.5.
And that's a very solid score.
Yes, that is the highest score the Firewater Review has ever given.
So if you have the opportunity to pick it up, or you have a bottle and have not opened it, you should do so.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Don't flip, don't sell, drink.
Yes. That's what these people make it for.
Yes.
For consumption. For consumption. Yeah, this, oh gosh, I just love this. I love it. And I'm glad you reminded me because there's not much left in my bottle, so I need to pour a 2-ounce sample for you before I finish this. Because there's no fake in this one. There's no fake in it. But yeah, the 95, and I think I mentioned this on an episode of the Bourbon Show, I think. To me, there's no 100. And I think they kind of gave me crap about it, but I just don't think there is a perfect bourbon.
And I'm with you. I don't think there is either. I mean, once there is that 100 bourbon, that 100 score bourbon, I mean, where's there to go from there?
Right. Yep.
It's done.
Yep.
Everyone might as well just quit making bourbon and just that one distillery with that 100 bourbon, just
they win.
Keep going. Yeah. They just keep producing in that 100 bourbon. So yeah, there is no 100. I've tasted a lot of bourbon, and the highest I think I've ever rated anything is a 95. And you never know. You might come across that one that just sparks that 100 in you, but I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon for me.
No, I agree. It's not for me either. And these reviews are based on our individual palates and our individual likes and our individual dislikes. And they should be taken as such. I mean, these scores aren't, the end all be all, because somebody listening to this could pick up a bottle of this and not like it at all. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. But these scores that we give are just based on our tastes, and like I said, should be taken as such. And, it's just, there's no 100. There is no 100.
Yeah, I mean, I think of someone just getting into bourbon, picking up a Four Roses single barrel selection, and I can only imagine what they think trying that. I mean, foolproof, high proof bourbon that is a high rye mash bill, like very high rye mash bill.
It might light them on fire.
If someone's never really been into bourbon at all, they'd be done after that, So, but
yeah, there's a guy that I worked with that's kind of been getting into it recently, and I can't remember what he said that he had tried the other day. What was it? It was a relatively high rye bourbon, I think. I can't remember. Either way, it was barrel proof, and he said he just couldn't do it. He said it was good, but he had to put ice in it, which is fine. I mean, if that's how you like it, that's how you like it. But he said he tried so hard just to really enjoy it, and he said it was just too much for him right now. And it's kind of funny, and I think I've mentioned this before somewhere. Maybe on another show, I can't remember. But anyway, getting into the higher proof bourbons really took my palate and my taste buds. I mean, just to a whole nother level. It
takes time.
Oh yeah, it absolutely takes time. But I think it set my palate not just for bourbon, but for other stuff. I mean, for a long time, when I poured a cup of coffee, I'd have to let it sit for a few minutes just to cool down. And it was once I got into the barrel strength whiskeys, it was, I don't know if it just fried my taste buds or what. But I could drink it straight from the pot right now, and I've never been able to do that before. And so it had something to do with it. It had to have. I mean, my parents always said your taste buds change when you get older, and maybe it has to do with that too. But I don't know. It's an acquired taste, but once you get used to it, and once you find one that you like, there's really no turning back, in my opinion.
And we've all been down that road where we're just getting into something, getting into bourbon. I'll admit it. When I first got into bourbon, it was, bourbon and Coke or flavored whiskey of some sort. It wasn't like, no, I didn't jump right into this at drinking it neat, drinking it high proof. I started just the way everyone else does.
Mm-hmm.
Makers and Coke or Jack and Coke or whatever in Coke, and then do some cocktails. Then you start trying it with ice, and you kind of back up off the ice. Then you start just adding water, and then before you know it, you're drinking it neat and enjoying it. Starting to pull flavors, and it takes time, it did, but we've been doing this for a little bit, and so just because you try something that is kind of too hot for you at the moment, or too spicy, give it time. Everyone's palate's gonna evolve, and you never know.
Yeah, when I first got into it, I think the one that I drank most regularly neat was Basil Hayden. It's, if you look at the proof, it's barely a bourbon.
Oh, it's perfect for someone starting out.
Yeah, it's an 80 proof whiskey, and that's why I say it's barely a bourbon. A bourbon has to be 80 proof or more, and it's a very easy drinker, and that's one that I've always told people, if you're just getting into it and you want to drink it neat, start there, and then just work your way up. Because it's a smaller batch. I don't think it's single barrel, is it? I think it's a small batch.
No, it's small batch, yeah.
So it's a small batch. You get pretty consistent flavors and aromas in them, and it's a super easy drinker. And like you said, when I first started getting into it, drinking neat, it was the same thing. We've all had our bourbon and Cokes and cocktails and whatnot, and there's nothing wrong with it, but I wanted to drink it neat and be able to pick up those flavors and those aromas and experience the finish on them. And so it was very much a transition period. And, I started off with, like maybe after I cut out the Coke, it was about 4 cubes of ice, I guess. And then over time, it was just 1 cube of ice. And I would even recommend that. They probably thought I was the stuck up dude at the dinner table or whatever, but I would always ask for that. When I would order one, we were out to eat, I said I would like a bourbon with 1 cube of ice. And they'd kind of look at me weird. But, eventually I just cut the ice, and that was it. It was the same way that I did with coffee. You'd use coffee or sugar and cream, and I never was a cream guy. I was always sugar, but just slowly cut out the sugar. And it's just, ease into it.
I was the same way. Going out to dinner, I remember I'd order a bourbon neat, and then just ask for a couple cubes on the side, and I just added what I wanted.
Yeah.
At the time, because a lot of times if you say, "Hey, yeah, I want a bourbon," on the rocks, they bring out,
it's an ice. It's a glass full of ice.
Glass full of ice with 2 ounces of bourbon in it, and you're like, "Oh, that's okay." So, but yeah, so I always ice on the side. Yeah, that's what I always ask for.
Yeah. This was odd. Have you ever been charged extra for ordering neat?
I have not, but I could see where places would do that.
I have, and it's actually at one of our favorite restaurants around here. And I got the bill, and I can't remember what I'd ordered, but it was a Knob Creek. It was a Knob Creek, but I'd ordered it neat. And I just remember getting the bill, and there was an extra line item in there. It was like 50 cents extra or something like that. It wasn't anything huge, but I just kind of scratched my head like that's a first. I can't say that I've ever been billed extra for ordering less.
Well, it's just like, it's like the distilleries, they add water to all their bourbons to proof them down.
Mm-hmm.
But they charge you more for a bourbon that they don't have to add anything to.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for them, they don't go as far for the distilleries. I mean, because if you're not watering it down, the barrel's gone, and you get 100, 120-ish bottles out of a barrel. Sometimes less, sometimes more. And then if you're watering it down, you get a lot more than that.
300.
Yeah. Yep. So anyway, what was our final score?
It was a 93.5.
93.5. That is a Firewater Review all-time high.
It is.
And perhaps an all-time high for me altogether, period. So what was, you'd mentioned you'd given a couple 95s. What were those? Do you remember?
So, actually, the first, if anyone reads the Bourbon Zeppelin, my very first article that I put out for the Bourbon Zeppelin was a Knob Creek pick from Lincoln Road by Jamie Ferris, and it was a 13-year Knob Creek, and that was by far one of the best bourbons I have ever had. It is, it's phenomenal, and I remember the day I popped that bottle and I poured it. And my brother was with me. I poured a glass for him, and I took a sip. He took a sip, and I looked at him. I was like, "What do you think?" And he was like, "Is that Booker's 25th?" And I was like, "Yes." It tasted like, it was spot on Booker's 25th anniversary. it was the flavor profile almost matched perfectly. It was crazy good, and it's by far probably one of my top. If someone asks you what are your top 5 bourbons, that would be in it for sure. And so that, and I've had a couple Blantons straight from the barrels that have hit the 95 mark for me. If anyone can, if you can ever get your hands on a Blanton straight from the barrel, do it. It's worth every penny. I order from Master of Malts all the time. $90 for a bottle, an extra $30 for shipping, comes out to be about $120 if you order multiple bottles. That is an antique collection. That's Buffalo Trace Antique Collection. It's written all over it. I don't know why it's not part of the collection, but it should be. And if I can get it for $120, I'm going to. So, and it's phenomenal.
Yeah, and like you said, if it's on par with some of the antiques, the antiques now are like 90, I think, MSRP.
Yeah.
So you're not finding an antique bottle on secondary for 120, and in some cases at retail, you're not finding it for 120.
The way I look at it is, I like Buffalo Trace. I love all their stuff they do. I like all their antique collections, but my favorite mash bill is mash bill number 2.
Mm-hmm.
How many antique collection bottles are from mash bill number 2?
1?
No, 0. You got Handy, which is rye. You got Saz, which is rye. You got Stag, which is 1. You got Eagle Rare 17, which is 1.
I was thinking Stag was 2
so,
for some reason.
So they're all. there's none from mash bill number 2. Then you hit,
Weller, which
Blanton's, Blanton straight from the barrel, which is somewhere between usually 127 to 130 proof, 135 proof. It should be ranked in there with all those, and that's my favorite mash bill, and I would pick that over just about any of the other antique collections.
Yeah.
But
what am I thinking?
That's my personal flavor.
Mash bill 2 is Blanton's, Rock Hill Farms, Elmer T. Lee, Hancock's, and Ancient Age. So there's, for some reason, I don't know why I was thinking Stag was in 2, but you're right. Maybe that's why it's not. So they don't want anything from 2 in there.
For me, it's antique collection. So, but So we got a little bit off topic, but that's all right.
That's all right. It's still bourbon related.
So we'll reel it back in and head back over the Four Roses. So I recommend, if you can't find a Elliot selection, don't be afraid to pick up a barrel selection from a local liquor store, because they're just as good. That they might not be a 93.5 good, but there's a lot of great barrel selections out there. Just check the mash bills on the side. I mean, all the mash bills are written on all the single barrel selections, so you'll know the mash bill. If you look at the Bourbon R blog, they have a breakdown of the mash bill, so you can check it out, see what their rye content is, see what the yeast strain is, try to decide if that's something you're going to want or like. So, yeah, it's Four Roses is just go for it. It's great.
Yeah, I have a very good friend of mine. He kind of gets weirded out. Not weirded out, but I guess freaked out by all the different recipes. And he's like, I just don't even know where to start. I was like, well, just start buying them and figure out. It's not hard. But I mean, he's a big bourbon guy too. I don't know. I don't know if that's just his excuse or what, but yeah. And the barrel strength Four Roses usually run between $60 and $70. You may see some that are a little higher in price, but they're totally worth it. I mean, when you look at it, these Elliot Selects are, what was it? It was like $125, I think, retail. So you're looking at, in some cases, potentially half what the limited edition is, and you may get one that will be pretty close in age, and you can obviously get the same recipes. I mean, the recipes are, anybody can pick them. There was one that they had held off for a while, wasn't there? That they weren't letting people pick.
Yeah, the OESQ. For a while, they weren't doing that because they were kind of low on it. When I was down doing a barrel selection, we only got to try through 9 of the recipes. The OESQ was not one. And from what I hear now, there's 2 they're holding back. And that's just, I mean, you got to think, every recipe goes into the yellow label. So that's all 10 recipes. So if you're dedicating all those recipes to the yellow label, and then you're doing barrel selection, you have this barrel selection program going on, and people are coming in and buying barrels, you're going to run out of barrels pretty quick. I mean, it doesn't matter how fast you're pumping them out, they got to age.
Right.
And so, I'm not going to lie, I've been to a lot of stores recently where I've looked at their barrel selections, and all the Four Roses are sitting at 8 years now, where, a year or 2 years ago, I could pick up a barrel selection for at 11 year. It's age stated 11 years easily, and now it's 8. I haven't seen any at 7, but I wouldn't be surprised if that comes soon, because a lot of people are picking barrels. They still need all their barrels for everything else they're doing. So
it's kind of like they unofficially lowered it to like between 9 and 10 years, wasn't it?
Yeah. So, but they've never had an age statement on their single barrel on the. They're just their normal shelf single barrel.
But yeah, even those are good. I mean, that's a good way to get into it too. And there's been a few store picks that I've picked up too that haven't been barrel strength. I don't know why, but for a long time around here, the only store picks that you would find were just regular old OBSVs, and they were they were watered down, filtered, everything. But you could find some that were around 10 years old. But it wasn't up until maybe about 2, maybe 3 years ago that I really noticed a lot of the barrel strengths kind of starting to pop up as store picks. So I was super excited about that because it was so hard. I mean, especially locally, it was so hard to get them. You were always having to order them online or, trade with somebody or do something like that to get them. So I was really excited to see those kind of start popping up around here. And but yeah, just get them, try out some different recipes, and just know that even if you get two of the same recipes, but they're from two different stores, they're probably going to taste a little bit different.
Yeah, two different barrels.
Yep.
So yeah, they're going to be different for sure. Have you ever sat down and tried to do all 10?
No.
Yeah.
No. There was an Atlanta Bourbon Society event where it was a Four Roses. They had a representative from Four Roses to come down and talk, and gave out some swag. Got a little Four Roses glass. I think you have one like that. Four Roses pen, and but everybody brought their favorite Four Roses bottle. So
Cool.
that was the most of the 10 recipes that I'd ever been around. I don't think all 10 were represented there, but there were quite a bit. So that was the one time that I did get to drink the most of the different recipes, but I still don't think I've had all 10. Not at one time, at least anyway.
I'm actually drinking out of that glass right now.
Are you?
I love that glass. And anytime I pour Four Roses, I usually use that glass. So
Just like your Knob Creek.
yeah. I'm weird like that. But when we did our barrel selection, we did 9 of the 10, and it's it's intense. That's a lot of bourbon, a lot of high proof.
It's like suicide
Definitely
for your palate, it seems like.
Well, there's you go on a barrel selection to pick a good barrel of bourbon. You don't go to get drunk. So you nose everything, and if the nose isn't there, the taste isn't going to be there. So if right off the bat you can eliminate usually 2 or 3 right off the bat, and you still try them, take a sip, but you usually go into it knowing this isn't going to be what you want. And so once you're done with that, you sip it, you try it, and if you realize, yeah, the nose wasn't there, flavor's not there, you just push that aside. You move on, and then once you're done picking your barrel, once you decide, yeah, that's what I want, that's what I want. Well, then you can enjoy yourself if you want, but
Let loose a little bit.
I wouldn't recommend going through all 10 and drinking all 10. I definitely didn't. So that's
finish it in 15 minutes.
Yeah, that could be a bad next day, or a bad afternoon, whatever. I think our pick was like 1 o'clock, so that would have been a bad night, I guess. But yeah, it's fun. I can't stress this enough. If you ever have the chance to go down and pick a barrel with anyone, anything, do it. It's
now you're teasing me.
Yeah, I know. I am a little bit, but it's worth it. But you've picked barrels before,
Yeah, but it's not been up there. I've picked them at stores where they've had the samples sent to the store. So I've picked them that way.
Yeah. Well, maybe one of these days we'll get to Kentucky and we'll get it done.
Yeah, I think we need to do that this year. Well, cool. All right, I think that wraps it up.
It does.
So where can folks find you?
Well, as always, I am at Bourbon Cave on the Instagram and Twitter. And you can also see my columns I write on the Bourbon Zeppelin. I usually do high proof and single barrel bourbons. And I also write for the Sons of Winston Churchill, so check that out.
And I am Seth P. Brown on Instagram and Twitter. I can be found on the Son of Winston Churchill as well, and I can be found on The Bourbon Show. You can find all of our shows in iTunes, in Google Play, and in Stitcher. We love reviews. Please subscribe to our shows. That helps us. And feedback. Feedback helps us as well. We want to know what you like and what you don't like about the show. And we would love to hear what you want us to review. So let us know. That's it. Until next week. Cheers.
Cheers. Later.
The Firewater Review is part of the ABV network. For more information or to become a sponsor, please visit abvnetwork.com. Thanks for listening, and cheers.
This episode brought to you by WhiskeyThreads.com. That's WhiskeyThreads.com. Whiskey Threads is modern whiskey gear for those who know whiskey. Just a quick reminder to drink responsibly.